A metallic sphere is seen crossing the sky in a small city in Colombia, Buga.
Como algo extraño.
Some say it is aliens warning us about an invasion, but others called it an obvious hoax, evidently made on Earth. Why would advanced aliens make wonky drawings like these? But everything changed when scientists at a very prestigious university analyzed it. They just found what appears to be technology that should have never been there. Technology that matches what an American Army officer once called extraterrestrial tech. Hey, I know it sounds crazy, but please hear me out. There's a journalist, very famous journalist, showing evidence of the report by that prestigious university, so we'll definitely take a look at that. We're also going to do our own mind-blowing test to see if this is a hoax or not. Simple test, and yet I haven't seen media trying it at all, and I cannot wait to show you the new spheres that appear in the same city. Is this really an invasion? We'll also take a look at that. By the end of this video, you'll decide if this is a story about a real UFO or just big liars with big balls. Beginning with the mysterious way the first sphere showed up. It's early March 2025. A strange object falls from the sky outside the city of Buga in Colombia. David Velez, a Colombian entrepreneur who ends up with the sphere, claims that Jose and Maria, yes, as in Joseph and Mary, they see it at the same time, but from two different locations. These are supposedly their videos. As you can see, Maria gets to see it very close, but Jose, a farmer, he's the one who gets the full show. He literally sees it descend in front of him, all of this while he was working on his sugarcane fields. When he walks over to check it out, what he finds just doesn't make any sense. It's a flawless metallic orb about the size of a soccer ball. Around its midsection are perfectly spaced circular holes. Jose, the one who actually picked it up, he says that right afterwards he felt very dizzy, very lightheaded, and of course, dude was terrified. So he goes to unlock his phone using his fingerprints, but the thing wouldn't work. So he's like, what the heck? He tries it a bunch of times, it's just not working. He's like, what the heck? What's going on? Dios mío, por favor, ¿qué pasa? He feels his fingerprints, they feel odd. He says it felt like they were vanishing, slowly vanishing as time passed. On top of it, in this anonymous interview, Jose claims that the sphere initially weighed about 3 pounds, and it slowly got heavier. He thinks this cannot be right, so he rushes to call a company that he thinks can do something about the crazy, wild sphere. The company sells metal detectors and similar technology. Jose knows them because he's bought equipment from there before. Because when he's not working on his sugarcane fields, my man likes to grab his metal detector and go treasure hunting, looking for gold. Freaked out, Jose tells David Velez, a worker at the metal detector company, that he fears for his health and he wants David to not just take the sphere, but please analyze it. So while Jose goes to the hospital to make sure that everything is hopefully okay with his health, David Velez takes the mysterious sphere to his company. David Velez, who tells the story I just shared with you, says that Jose and Maria decided to remain anonymous because they don't want money or fame or anything to do with UFOs, aliens, and crazy spheres. I mean, there's this interview with Don Jose, but in the entire video, you never see his face. You really don't get to know his identity. He remains anonymous. As a Colombian myself, I know that our farmers are hardcore workers who care only and only about the land. But this one, Don Jose, he is literally a gold digger. And how about the woman, Maria? David promised an interview with her, but it seems it never happened. Is she maybe afraid of being called crazy? Possibly. But the thing with us Colombians is that we are culturally not shy about believing in aliens. There's actually reports about how we are the top believers of aliens in Latin America. So why remain anonymous? That question takes us to the original and new tests done on the silver sphere, plus a mind-blowing test I did for you. So let's take a look at the first tests. David takes it to his company. They pour water on the sphere to prove that its temperature is very cold. They really don't give any specifics about how cold it is, but what they say matches what Don Jose claimed in this video.
Y ahí me decidí tocarla y ella era como algo como frionga.
But a lot of people didn't really believe the whole cold sphere story. They thought that they probably froze it and then they bring it out to make it look like it's special, which is very possible. People also accuse David of running a marketing stunt, especially because his company's logo is seen all over the place. But David denies it. Of course, I'll dig much deeper on that one very soon, and I hope you're lubricated for that. But first, the next test. David calls Jaime Maussan. Jaime is a famous reporter from Mexico, known internationally for what media and universities call professional hoaxes. He takes possession of the Buga sphere, doesn't think it's a prank. On the contrary, he takes it very seriously. Maybe he sees an opportunity to make some money. Or maybe he sees an opportunity to change history and his career's reputation. He calls in Luis Velázquez, a professional in radiology. The dude performs a scan on the sphere, and this is what they see. The circles inside and evidence that it is not hollow shocks him. He says he's never seen anything like it, but when you look closer, you can see that the circles inside match the external design, which is exactly what you would get from drilling or piercing to create the design on the surface. The radiologist claims there's no evidence of welding, but it's interesting how there's clearly a middle section that appears to hold the two halves of the sphere together, a very human technique. I ran the images through AI, which I know is not the greatest source. Better sources coming soon, but this AI think that the technique used to create the sphere looks actually pretty outdated. And quite honestly, Colombia is not a place where people can normally afford super fancy equipment, so it is pretty possible. However, Maussan decided to keep digging in search of better evidence. He brings a chemical engineer who allegedly has over 50 years of experience analyzing, studying metals. The expert concludes that this artifact is unique. It's got some type of energy inside. It's just that we simply don't have the technology to understand it, he says. He says that it should be normal to detect electromagnetism from the sphere, the type to mess around with scanning equipment, but this sphere doesn't have it. I don't think it will shock you to know that I am not an expert in metals, but I research, and turns out most non-magnetic metals don't generate magnetic fields that would interfere with scanning technologies. The metal sphere, which no one has claimed as magnetic, it appears to be behaving as expected. Now, here's where things begin to take a serious turn on something that a lot of people and myself originally considered an obvious hoax. Jaime Maussan focuses on what he calls a device. This strange shape inside the sphere was found through scans. Maussan's experts, they don't know what it is, but of course, they think it's insanely mysterious. Of course, I grabbed all those images and fed it to AI, and it says that what Maussan calls a device, which can be, I'm not saying it's not, it says that this object seems to be of lower density compared to the surface of the sphere. It seems like a human-made filling or object to balance the sphere and add weight. But is it? Maussan brings in more experts. An Italian analyst claims to have verified that the video of the sphere flying or levitating is 100% real. And look, I'm not some video specialist, but I've edited a lot of videos for companies and myself, and I honestly don't see the fake. As in, I don't think that it was AI generated. I don't think that it was done with After Effects or some type of editing to, make it look like there's a sphere flying or levitating. I think there is a sphere flying. How? That's a different question. What a lot of people online say is that it appears, I actually have this here that is perfect for this explanation, and they think that there is a drone and some type of core. Here's the sphere. And so pretty much what we're seeing is the drone carrying a sphere. And there's even people who have said that it actually matches the movement of a basic average drone. But let's keep on checking. Maussan brings yet another expert, engineer Rodolfo Garrido. He says that after a series of studies, they discovered that the Buga sphere appears to levitate thanks to static electricity. He says the sphere probably charges itself while spinning, and that the spinning makes the charge strong enough to lift it into the air. He compares the effect to how spiders float using electrical charge in the air, a real phenomenon called ballooning. The engineer claims that by spinning the sphere in a certain way and putting it in an electric field, it might wake up and levitate. To prove it, he charges up a Van de Graaff generator, which is a machine that builds up static electricity. The thing is that he never actually performs these tests on the actual Buga sphere. These are not it. But the most interesting part about the claim is that static is the one responsible for the Buga sphere levitation. That's actually very interesting. But as far as scientists think they know, static electricity can't not lift heavy metal balls, only tiny things like dust and spider silk. Honestly, at this point, I just went back to considering Maussan a professional hoaxer again. But then, he did this. Maussan claims that he sent the sphere to one of the world's most prestigious universities, Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, also known as UNAM. These are real scientists, legitimate, with professional careers, big reputations to protect. They literally depend on it. And I'm just here wondering, will they really put it all at risk for a man known to be a hoaxer internationally? Honestly, I didn't believe it. So I searched all over UNAM's website and its social media for any type of official announcement, but nothing. I called various scientific departments at the university to confirm, but no response. I emailed, no response. But then Maussan publishes one more update. In it, he shows the report. Maussan says that scientists at UNAM studied the sphere, even scraped pieces off of its surface. And here's where it gets crazy. He says that based on the report, the university confirmed the existence of fiber optics in the sphere. That's huge. It changes everything because when properly connected to the right systems, fiber optics are used on Earth for high-speed internet and communications, medical imaging. It can be used as sensors to detect things like temperature, pressure, vibrations, seismic activity, chemical changes. The obvious assumption is that whatever or whoever built this Buga sphere may be collecting data from our planet. But why? And if it was aliens, why would highly advanced beings use antiquated human technology? In response to similar questions, Maussan reminds us that there is a book titled The Day After Roswell by former military officer Colonel Philip J. Corso. In the book, Philip claims that in the early 1960s, he was entrusted with extraterrestrial artifacts recovered from the 1947 Roswell crash. Philip says that insane technology was found. Some scientists were in charge of reverse engineering what we now call fiber optics. What's absolutely crazy, and may add to this hypothesis, is that more spheres have been seen flying around Buga. Again, adding to the possibility of the original sphere being not just real, but one of a potential study in the area, or, as some say, a potential invasion. Unfortunately, Philip's stories and the new spheres we're seeing now on Buga, none of it has been officially verified, which doesn't mean it's not true, but the lack of evidence and sources must be considered. I also think that it's extremely important to consider the fact that many of us had seen these shapes before, but where? I went online and turns out others quickly realized that what UNAM and Maussan show as fiber optics are most likely the reflection of a little microscope you and I can buy online. Earlier in the video, I promised you a mind-blowing test, but frankly, what's mind-blowing about this test is how easy it is to see the same reflections on any piece of metal or anything for that matter. Also, media, mainstream media, why aren't they just trying it? And I know you're probably thinking, what the hell does this mean that UNAM's tests were fake? I don't know. And the reason why I do not know is because they have not replied to any of my requests. Hey friends, so quick update. They've received my question and it seems that they will get to it at some point. But real or not, there's a little portion of that UNAM report, or at least what we think is UNAM's report. There's something actually extremely important. It says that based on shape and chemical analysis, it can be inferred, they say, that there are possible fiber optics. It also says that they found 52 possible fibers with a diameter between 40 and 30 microns, which is it's a tiny piece of a millimeter. The report never confirmed the existence of microfibers, as Maussan shouts in his videos.
El reporte de la universidad, la máxima casa de estudios, que ha concluido su investigación de la llamada esfera de Buga y ha confirmado que en su interior se encuentran fibras ópticas que están insertas en la esfera, que hay decenas de ellas de todo tipo de tamaños, de todo tipo de funciones.
Actually, I did a little research on it, and turns out that the scientific community, they can refer to things as potential fiber optics just because they are tiny pieces of glass or plastic and potentially other materials that reflect back. So they could just indeed be looking at glass. And by the way, one thing, Maussan has a response to those of us who say, hey, this looks like macroscopic reflections. He says, oh, no, but it's not just what you can observe. The university, don't forget, they scraped a little bit off of the surface of the sphere. And he said that they're taking that, and that's where they're finding the fiber optics. But yet again, the report shows something entirely different. Here's something super important I found about UNAM's involvement with the Buga sphere. Turns out, UNAM offers lab testing to the general public. What this means is that you and I and anyone can walk into UNAM and request a lab test on a variety of things. This is actually a very common practice at large universities around the world. My suggestion is if someone at work is giving you a weird cup of tea daily, take that tea, go to the university, one of those universities, and get it tested for poison. Good idea. You never know. And here's the reason why I think that what Maussan has in his hands is one of these lab tests that you can just go ahead and pay for. In the regular lab tests, the university gives you raw data, like photos and chemical analysis. There are no interpretations, no conclusions, no peer review. It's just a service, not a scientific investigation. And that literally seems to be what Maussan is showing us, one of these basic reports. So how is that different from an actual university study? It's actually very different because it includes data analysis, interpretations, And most importantly, it is peer-reviewed, meaning other scientists replicate the test to see if they get the same results. That's something that the Buga sphere has not gotten so far. A proper scientific treatment. And of course, I want to hear from you. I want to know, what is it that you think? Do you think this is an annoying hoax that should end already? Is this just a complex story that deserves proper analysis? Or is it really technology that we just can't comprehend? I do think it's funny how, coincidentally, Buga is a place where we Colombians go seeking truth. Really, but please don't let the fun end. If you want to journey through an insanely wild mystery, unsolved mystery brought to you by the CIA, check out this video. Should be somewhere around here. And in the meantime, thank you so much for existing, and I can't wait to see you soon.